Hello all YouTubers, I'm the Weather Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for tuning by getting my presentation for May 1st, 2019. As always, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, as well as ringing the bell notifications. Never miss a video again. As always, please consider looking in the description for other videos of mine with superior weather content that you won't find anywhere else. And also, please watch the whole video because I will be presenting to you my May 2019 forecast, as well as watching a tropical disturbance across around the Caribbean area just east of Florida, so stay tuned for that. I will start off though with my May 2019 forecast. Okay, I would have got this video out 60 or 90 minutes earlier, but I was having severe technical difficulties. Okay, so Climate Prediction Center, up the eastern seaboard, even back towards Texas, so basically the eastern 30 United States, makes this graph is simple to look at. The eastern 30 United States is above average. Okay, the central part of the United States will be below average, including from Texas to, or at least around El Paso, Texas, to Rio Grande, up to about North Dakota, and then the West Coast is going to be warm. Okay, so western third is going to be warm, eastern third is going to be warm, okay, and then right in the middle it's going to be cold. Precipitation, West Coast will be a little bit dry, especially around Washington and Oregon, but I do think majority of the United States will be in a wetter pattern. So, looking at the temperatures that I made, again, I look at other different weather models and websites, as well as the Climate Prediction Center. Okay, this is not copied directly from the Climate Prediction Center. Okay, you can see this graph looks different, actually very different, but it does still have the same general pattern to it. Okay, I did make some minor, moderate tweaks, but overall, I do agree with their pattern. Okay, so eastern third of the country definitely going to be slightly to moderately above average. Central Plains is going to be the areas, and especially northern plains as well, moderately below average. And then get up the west coast could be slightly above average. I think it'll be more above average over in the east than it will be in the west, but still, you get the general census here. Okay, west and east coast United States will definitely be above average temperatures. For precipitation, excuse me, you can see that I did keep the same pattern pretty much as was Climate Prediction Center saying, except that I added a well above average area that they did not. So that's from northeastern Texas up to Missouri. They should be getting hammered by severe weather, and I do think that pattern will continue. Okay, that also includes Oklahoma and Arkansas and also eastern Kansas. And outside of there, okay, around Louisiana, maybe some moderately above average, but then from about like Philly, Delaware, all the way over to California, down to Florida, down to Rio Grande, it's going to be all at least slightly above average precipitation, and I do think the Washington and Oregon will be generally warm and dry. Okay, slightly below average precipitation. Alright, so this is the May 2019 overall forecast. So, yes, well, you might be saying, well, why is California in the precipitation map in above average here for precipitation, but you're saying warm and dry? It's because the fire season is going to kick in later. It might start out as above average, but as precipitation, but I do think it will decline as fire season begins. So West Coast is going to be warm and dry. California could be wet in the start of May, or at least like the first 2/3 of May. Then, especially in June, things will go downhill. It will be cool temps with an average precip from about northeastern Utah around Wyoming, bending in like an arc-like motion over into Michigan. And then from Detroit up to Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, well, actually not the Mid-Atlantic, northeast, will definitely be warm with average precipitation, warm and wet across the southeast. The severe weather will be probably from southern South Dakota again, as it's been for a while, down to northeastern Texas. So where a lot of severe weather has been, and I think it will continue to be there as well. Now, it will be cool and wet potentially for areas such as Illinois, like New Mexico down to Texas. I do think that area will definitely be in an area where we will have a cool and wet pattern for that area. And again, in white, you're just going to be average. So again, this is the National Hurricane Center, and as I am looking on my phone here, yes, this is, as I've gotten alerts, this is actually the latest forecast that I can get. Okay, so I do hope that this shows you what you need to know. This is from 9:25 this morning. Okay, tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning, they will issue their next advisory. Okay, they're not going to issue them as often because it's not actually hurricane season yet. So they're not actually going to release the actual, like every few hours kind of thing like they do normally. So it's over the islands right now, just east of Florida, and like just north of Cuba, like around the islands here, maybe like just it's north of Puerto Rico, well north of Puerto Rico. But it will make an arc-like motion through Miami, cut through Orlando, make an easterly turn, northeasterly turn off the Carolina coast, like this. Okay, where we'll have a 20% chance to develop over the next 5 days. Now, we will look at cyclonic vorticity maps and all these kind of different maps. But generally, I actually think this storm could actually have a pretty good journey. I think there's a pretty good chance that, I said like a good, like, I would say 40% chance that it would become at least a tropical depression, not a tropical storm. Okay, so it's a trough of low pressure over the northwestern Bahamas. Disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity. Little development is expected. There's a 0% chance for the next 2 days, but 20% for the next 5 days as conditions will get more favorable. Okay, slow development is possible. Locally heavy rains. Okay, parts of Florida could get up to 3 inches of rain from this disturbance, whether it develops or not. Okay, and a special tropical outlook again will be released next time, 10 a.m. Thursday, which I will keep you guys up to date with that. Okay, so we're going to look over at Track the Tropics. Going to look at the wind shear map, and over the past 24 hours, excuse me, I've been having like a little throat issue today. But you can see, and we're also going to look at like future wind shear and all these other different cool maps I'm sure you guys will enjoy. Sorry. So, you can see just north of Cuba right now, we do have an area of green and blue, which means 20 and 10 knots of wind shear, which is pretty low. And that's actually, ironically, it's where the storm is actually centered right now. So luckily it's in an area where the wind shear is not as high. But once it moves, and the wind shear has been going down off the coast of Florida, trending down, but it's still kind of iffy. We're talking about like 25, 35 knots, or not 35, maybe like 25 or 30. And that could still prevent the development. But still, once it gets north of that, though, look at the wind shear in the past 24 hours. I'm not saying it's going to stay like this, but look, literally like no wind shear off the mid-Atlantic coast. So what if it tracks up there? Who knows? Maybe you can have like a nice little development getting up there. But again, it's all going to depend on where it's going to track. So, as for the future wind shear, so this is 24 hours from now. What will the wind shear look like? And you can see wind shear looks like it's going to kind of disintegrate. This is for tomorrow. But look at this. It's like less than 30 knots of wind shear all this area right here. And the storm will probably be like right around like in central Florida by tomorrow. So, if it can make that turn, and it would develop off the coast of the Carolinas right here where I'm shading in black, that would be the spot where it would develop. Not really much wind shear to contend with, at least it's from WSI. So, if you look at 48-hour wind shear, that's when stuff starts to get a little iffy. Okay, it says the 3rd of May, 2019, and you can see it probably be like, maybe like just leaving Florida, probably like south of Jacksonville, like still on the edge of the Florida, just like getting ready to leave Florida. And you can see, not too bad, like if it was to leave the coast of Florida this time, 30 knots of wind shear, not too bad, or 30 miles per hour of wind shear, excuse me, that's not too terrible, okay, but in that yellow area, that's your little iffy spot. But again, we've seen much worse, like out here by Africa, we definitely see much worse wind shear. And then, by 3 days, this is when it starts to get parallel to Carolina coast. And again, conditions are going to be iffy because it's May, but it will not be too terrible. Okay, so we're going to look at, let me see if I can find it. Oh, yes. This is like a little map that shows you if a tropical system can develop in this particular area. Neutral to favorable conditions where the storm is centered right now. So it can start getting its act together a little bit. and maybe even start to strengthen a little bit. But again, even though it's in red, which means unfavorable, it's only 25 knots of wind shear. Even though it's in the unfavorable red area, it's only 25 knots, which is like a low-end unfavorable, more like a neutral kind of thing. But again, up by the mid-Atlantic, it's favorable conditions. Up there, the only problem up there is that the sea surface temperatures are just way too cold. We're talking about like them being in the 50s. Now, the heat content in the oceans, even though they're like 79, 78, 80 degrees, all the oceanic heat content is south of Cuba. Where the storm is right now is north of Cuba, like right around here, I do believe. So it's going to start to lose some of that oceanic heat. We're still going to have ocean temperatures in the 70s, which it's not bad. We can certainly still see some development from that. But let's see if I can get this total precipitable water map to pull up. I'm sorry, the satellite. And you can see over towards Africa, we definitely got some thunderstorm activity over there. Okay, that's been occurring ever since March, and nothing's developed out there yet. But what we're focusing on is out in here, okay, off the eastern coast of Florida. And I'm starting to see a little signs of a little bit of rotation, okay? And this storm is producing some gusty winds right now. On the islands just north of Cuba, around the Bahamas, northwestern Bahamas. Okay, we have had sustained winds, as I've looked, of about over 30 miles an hour over the northwestern Bahamas, where the storm is right now. And it's not even formed yet. So if this thing can get itself together, this thing could be a pretty decent wind producer. But it's not going to be excessive like a hurricane or anything like that at all. This has like a negative 10% chance of becoming a hurricane. Just not the right conditions yet. But look at this. Where the storm is, no dry air either. So it's like just happens to be where that storm is forming. There's no dry air. Okay, little wind shear. So it's starting to come together. We're starting to see the storm start to strengthen. It's okay because we had these favorable conditions, as I showed you in the satellite just earlier, and I will show you more satellite as well. You start to see a little rotation to the left. Start to see a little bit more rotation because the storm is starting to get itself together because conditions are favorable. Cyclonic vorticities. Okay, this is actually the Euro model. I know people will be thinking, like, how can you get the Euro model of tropical tidbits? Okay, they provide very limited maps on tropical tidbits, the Euro model. Okay, and each loop, it goes 1 day forward. So this is today, this is like this morning, tomorrow morning, and such. So it goes 1 day at a time. So it's not the GFS where it goes every 6 hours. This does go 1 day each time I click the mouse. Okay, so what I want you to focus on is off the eastern coast of Florida. Cyclonic vorticity is not too bad, although it is actually kind of bad, but not too good in any way. It's just like one little yellow blob, but it will get better. It's got to form into more like that tight, packed circle. Now, this is just cyclonic vorticity. That doesn't mean there's a hurricane over in Chicago right now, because there's deep oranges and reds. This can mean thunderstorm activity as well, depending on where you're looking at. So let's go 24 hours from now. At least the latest run of the Euro model, 12Z run. On the eastern coast of Florida, so I have to say, this is like well south of Palm Beach. I'd say this is by like off the coast. Like if you were like go to Kissimmee, Florida, like near Orlando, and go directly east off the coast, this is what I'm talking about right here. Okay, and we're starting to see a little bit of deeper orange, some deeper convection starting to come into place here. Okay, with some yellows surrounding that. So it's starting to get that together a little bit, but once it makes that land interaction with Florida, things will start in the weekend. And then we get like a little circle developing here, so some more oranges over towards Jacksonville. Regardless of development, again, there will still be definitely some heavy rains and some gusty winds. Okay, once it makes its interaction with land, not really too much to see here, at least according to the Euro model. Now here's what I've been watching. It's going to actually strengthen a little bit off once it leaves the southeast coast as of now. But here's the question. Can this storm go farther north enough? Because the mid-Atlantic will get like rounds of scattered thunderstorms over the next few days. Can that feed some moisture and some energy and some lift over into those storms in the mid-Atlantic? Is a possibility. Look at these cyclonic vorticities that is feeding into it. Some nice cyclonic vorticities here for the convection in the mid-Atlantic. So again, it's all, and then they could maybe come together, but that's like, we're talking like several days out. Okay, this is like over 6 days out, 5 days out. But anyway, over to the NAM 12K model. I knew I should not be using a higher resolution model, but since it's close to the United States, you can actually provide that kind of radar. And at least according to the NAM 12KM, it's actually raining right now in southern Florida. So they're already starting to feel the impacts there. You can see it indicated by the greens. And as we go out in time, over the next few hours, let's say, maybe starting to see some yellows and oranges pop up on the radar. NAM 3KM doesn't go out far enough, so that's why I'm using the NAM 12KM. And you can see, if I were to place, you can kind of see a little nook forming in there. Some slight rotation getting in right in there. So if that rotation could continue, this storm could become pretty well organized and maybe, in the long term, a tropical system. And then, once it gets picked up, it might get picked up by a cold front. We'll see if the times can correspond. But definitely, yes, some thunderstorm activity going to affect Florida with a couple inches of rain. The rainfall totals will not be that accurate, but I will show them anyways, see if they maybe didn't get a little bit accurate. But again, like I said, not really much to see because the rainfall totals, like I already told you, they're going to be about 1 to 3 inches. With a spotty location getting 4 by, I think, 2 or 3 inches, especially across central East Florida, will probably be the main rainfall total with this. Okay, so NAM 12K, let's see if we can look at the precipitation total. Yeah, again, over a couple inches, eastern Florida there. Texas could even get 6 to 9 inches. Whew, it's a lot of rain over the next few days. Anyway, so this is the satellite loop. And as you can see, definitely starting to see this storm getting its head together. This shows the deeper convection. Okay, the convection is going to go up and down. And look at this. Look at these storms coming across Mexico here. Whoa, just noticed that. I was looking at this a couple hours ago. Didn't even see that. So maybe can we get this convection to form over here? Could it feed into this? And because this is moving very fast. So can that hurry up in time and form? Okay, as a meteorologist, you have to consider all these possibilities, even if they're wild. Okay, just out of the blue, this random convection, because you can see a couple hours ago, it wasn't even there. So, really, really shocking stuff to look at. But again, focusing on this one, okay, starting to see that convection kind of flare up there. Starting to see a little bit of rotation as the storm gets its act together. So, like I said, the ocean temperatures definitely are very, very favorable for development. Don't know why it's not working. But definitely some favorable conditions for development across this area. And you can see, look at this, where the storm is right now, 79, 80 degree sea surface temperatures. Okay, so very, very favorable conditions. Okay, really all you need is 70s. And look at it, where it could possibly track. This storm is going to track up the Gulf Stream. I kind of just realized that. So it's going to ride along the Gulf Stream, where the current pushes the storm up. So it's going to make landfall in Florida and then kind of go up the Gulf Stream. Now, if it gets pulled all the way up the Gulf Stream, maybe it could start impacting areas up in the northern mid-Atlantic. For example, Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey. That's very long term now. Very long term. Not only is definitely above average, not only 7-day changes have been a little bit on above normal as well. Going over to windy.com real quick, so you can see the winds 30 knots. Going to go real quick over to Friday. And you see the low pressure spinning right here off Jacksonville, and then it'll pull off to the north and east. And if the Gulf Stream is strong enough, maybe it could potentially pull that storm up along the Gulf Stream. So I'm going to have to watch here, okay, over the next few days. Okay, so you're getting the Weather Channel to close out here. You can see rainfall totals will be about 1 to 3 inches. Okay, again, here's your chances of development. Not very high, but still there, right along the Gulf Stream, off the coast of Carolinas, including Georgia. So that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Again, please drop a like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, especially if they live in the Southeast. Thank you for watching.